Moving on now. A team that was formerly in the division alongside Georgia, but the SEC is doing away with divisions. A team that might have crazy upside this offseason because of the likely improved play that they're going to get at the quarterback spot. And while I think that Nico Iamaleava might have a growing pain or two, I think you can make a case right now, his mobility, his acceleration, his ability to drive the ball down the field, ability to be a little bit more accurate on some of the underneath stuff. He's got a change up, unlike Joe Milton, his predecessor. I look at Tennessee, and while I think Tennessee fans are bullish about a possible playoff spot, I don't feel like Tennessee's really captured the nation's attention. Kind of like what we talked about with Georgia. There isn't really a quarterback competition. There aren't a ton of question marks that you have on defense. They have James Pierce back. If not for Mykel Williams, who I mentioned a moment ago with the Georgia Bulldogs, you make a case that James Pierce might be the best edge defender in the SEC. And statistically speaking, last year he was, alongside Dallas Turner and a few others. So I think you look at the SEC right now, and everyone's talking about Alabama, Georgia to an extent, even though Georgia, like I said, kind of flying under the radar. Tons of conversation about the Texas Longhorns. Tons of conversation to be had about the Ole Miss Rebels and the offseason that they've had. But there's not a whole lot of discussion about what Tennessee might ultimately be. And if their quarterback play skyrockets, they could be as dangerous a team as there is in the Southeastern Conference. I feel like I've spent more time talking about Florida this offseason than I have Tennessee. Partly because there's been conversation about Billy Napier and the hot seat and the pressure and all the other things. We need to spend a little more time on the Volunteers moving forward. Because with elevated quarterback play, if we think about what they were statistically last year, we went through this a couple weeks back. Tennessee lost from 22 to 23 about 78 yards of offense a game. They went from first way on down the list. I think they were 40s in that vicinity. That was 78 yards of offense per game that they lost from 22 to 23. Well, you know how many yards passing they lost last year from 22 to 23? That was 83 yards. So you could almost pin all of Tennessee's inconsistencies on the passing game. So with a slightly improved passer, assuming Nico Iamaleava is, and a running game that's going to continue to be dynamic, and a defense that is shown to be really solid, Tennessee could definitely challenge at the top of the league, and yet nobody really has them in that discussion right now. I think most people would have Tennessee 5th in the SEC, maybe 6th coming into the season, depending on how you want to shake things out between Texas, Bama, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Those are probably your top 7. Tennessee, I feel like, is way on down the list as far as the amount of coverage they're getting this offseason, and maybe that's good for them because they did not handle the expectations as well last year as one would have liked.